Hey y'all, Lonna here, back at it again with another tutorial. Zombie Bart is on the way, so grab all your supplies, your colors that look similar. The ones I'm using will be in the description below, and let's get it. And really quick, shout out to Valentino color 81 because it's my fave and what I'm using for the base. And we're gonna just jump right into it. So whatever liner brush you have, we're gonna take some black gel polish, and that's what we're gonna use to outline. We're starting with the outline first, and this is one of the ways that I do character art. I switch it up depending on the character, but in this case, we're starting with the outline first just to kind of, plan our space for this guy right here. So if you happen to have all the same colors that I do throughout this whole video, I am using the Valentino Gel Polish line. This is number 48. I love the line in general just because it's full coverage, which is perfect for hand painted art. I prefer to work with gel polish rather than acrylic paint. So if you make any mistakes or accidentally cure anything, it's fine because the colors that we're using, you have the line, everything's full coverage, so it'll cover whatever you need to hide later. So really quickly, what I want to remind y'all that we're not going to do, okay, is judge my nails, okay? So really quick, just a little note on that. I just took off one and I haven't done the other since, quarantine. And like my friend said the other day, my nails look like the little boy's nails who bite people. So, don't judge me. I'm working on that as we speak. Anyway. So I just want to reiterate how important it is to outline, or I guess the reason why, especially if you're a beginner trying to figure out, how to hand paint characters and such. It just gives you a guide, so you kind of know or, have a guesstimate of where like certain placement will be, and you don't just jump in and like do an eyeball and next thing you know, one's freakishly larger than the other, saying that from experience. So this will kind of help you if you're just starting out. This video is also as close to real time as humanly possible, with some like snips and stuff here and there, only because I stopped. But I decided to leave it because I feel like it's also kind of helpful to watch somebody do the whole thing, and also like if you're just watching just to watch, it's kind of satisfying too. So it's a win-win either way. So I didn't speed up too much of anything. Every now and then you'll see the video speed up just a little bit, but it's not much at all throughout this entire video. So yes, this character took me about an hour to do.
Okay, all right. Add it up.
Okay, so we're almost done with the outline. I'm not gonna bother, I typically don't bother rather, with like some of the smaller details, like the crack on the side of his head and, you know, the little skin peeling bumps and stuff. I don't bother to outline those things. It's more so just like the frame of the face and the teeth and the important things. The other little things, additional details can be added later. So just focus on those. Alright, so we're pretty much done with the outline. So if you happen to be following along, this is what yours should, you know, kind of look like when you are done. And we're gonna move on to the next step. So it's kind of like a coloring book. You pick a spot and just get right to it. So for this video, we're gonna start with the eyes. I custom made the color using 81 that I showed you guys before, the same color that's used for the base. And I just mixed it with some white and I was pretty much spot on for the eyeballs. So again, like I was saying about the gel line, the Valentino Gel Polish line, as you can see, like I just took a little glop and it's kind of like maneuvering it around the entire eyeball. I'm not gonna really need to pick up too much more, but that's why I like it. And you can see how well it covered the color that was already down without any issue. So if you're into hand painting, it's like, this brand is like the perfect thickness. I prefer gel polish over acrylic paint or anything else, because if I make a mistake, I can turn around before, you know, you have to cure for it to set. So if I make a mistake, I can just wipe it off and continue, you know, in between steps. So typically when I'm hand painting, when I'm nervous about moving on, or like I finally get something right that I was struggling with, maybe it was an eyelash or an eyeball or something, once I get it right, I cure it. So that's another benefit from working with gel polish, just saying. Alright, so between sections, I don't necessarily cure unless I can get into a point where they're getting ready to touch, but because I'm doing the teeth next, I have yet to cure the eyeballs. I'm just moving on, and yeah, we're gonna do that. I'm not doing any of the shading, so if you're following along, you're good, but if you've hand painted, you know, before and you're struggling, take it step by step. It'll be so much easier. I don't worry about any of the shading and stuff till last. I do everything piece by piece. So let's color in these teeth and keep it pushing. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is fill in his skin, which is green, like a little greenish yellowish color. I do want to note that I did cure, okay? I did cure the teeth and the eyeballs. I wanted to note that because in a second you will see a mistake that I made. And what happened was I was just distracted talking to my little one, my 4-year-old, when I was doing this, and I hit the wrong button when I went to cure. So instead of doing a full 30-second cure, because I have an LED lamp, I accidentally did a 10. So like right here, you can see where the eyeballs are starting to bubble. And you know, it's a common thing, especially if you're using like a yellow or a black color. It just happens. I have no idea why, and I feel like it happens with just everything, whatever. So I didn't do a full cure, which was my bad, and I didn't notice it until, like, you can see it's starting to like puff up right now. But there's a remedy for that, so you'll see like the eyeball in a minute just kind of fix itself. So I'm not showing it on screen, but I can explain to you what I did as you watch me color in the rest of, you know, his hair and his face. So what I do when I make that mistake, because I do make mistakes, okay, I preach that in my classes, and I love when I make mistakes when I am teaching, whether it's online or in person, and now, you know, on YouTube, because I don't know, I feel like it's important for people to know that, you know, you're still human and you're not perfect, and you know, they can relate to you, something to relate to, you know, that other people do make mistakes. So like I was saying, when I make that mistake, after, as you can see, like the shade is changed right here of green because I cured it. So I cured the green and then I stopped. And because the yellow, it's not going to fully cure, right? So I just took an alcohol wipe and I wiped everything off, as much of it that would come off. And I just refilled in the eyes, and that's why they look different. So then I cured those, and it didn't bubble again, so I didn't have any more problems. So you'll see the line of demarcation where there's the cured green on the forehead and the green that I'm placing down right now. It's nothing to worry about later. It's just gonna turn around and blend in when I top coat it. So it's not an issue because I made enough green. It's not like it's another color. It's just what it looks like after it's been cured. See? I hope all that makes sense, because I know I was talking a whole lot, but yeah. And I've done that take like 5 times, so I hope it made sense. If it's not, feel free to ask me about it in the comments, and you know, I'll talk about it some more. So as you can see, even though I know I'm gonna go through and darken the outline later, I am still doing my best to kind of, you know, avoid coloring over it, just so I can see what, you know, where my lines need to be later. And at this point too, if you see any places where, you know, as you're filling it in, you're like, oh, I didn't leave enough room for, I don't know, the nose or the mouth and whatever else, now will be the time to kind of leave that gap, which is what you can see I did. I left a little bit more space over the initial black line I left for the mouth, because I noticed in the fixture his was just raised a little bit more. And it's like I said, this polish, this gel polish, it's full coverage, so if I make any mistakes, I can easily correct them. So benefit, you know. So we're gonna finish this here. We're pretty much almost done. We'll speed it up just a tad bit so we can get to the next step. Okay, so I lied. I didn't realize as soon as I stopped talking that we're pretty much at the next step. So anyway, here we're just going to start adding in some of the detail that's on Zombie Bart's face. So just like the pus-filled bumps and the crack, we're not going to do any of the outlining with the black or any of the shading yet. Just slowly filling in, you know, just other details here and there. I did cure the green. Okay, so if you need to cure, go ahead and cure and catch back up. So here we're going to begin shading. I took a little bit of that eyeball color that I had and added some more of the base color, which was, you know, the Valentino 81, and that's how I got the that light shading that's on that perimeter of Bart's eyeball. It's right on the side. So that's what I'm using that for. So quick tip, if you are shading, you know, not all images have that amount of detail. It just depends if it's 2D, 3D, 4D image. But if you are shading, whatever color you use for the skin, just add like either black or white depending on if you need a darker shade or a lighter shade, and you know, that's just a tip that'll help you get that color. So for this portion, for instance, I took the same color that I used to outline one side of his eyeball and just added a little bit of black to it, so it's all still the same color. So I still haven't cured because what I'm working on next isn't anywhere near that, so I don't have to worry about the colors blending together. But we're gonna add the little crack in his brain that you can see, and also fill in his gums. So if you haven't already, whether it was for your comfortability or not, go ahead and cure before we move on to filling in the mouth with black. So quick tip about working with black, you just want to be very, very careful because you don't want it to bubble at all. So you don't want to leave like a huge glop in that area. You want to take whatever little blob of gel polish you picked up and kind of use that and spread that around as evenly as possible. You don't want any like sides to be or spots to be raised or bigger than the other because you don't want to risk it not curing all the way through. So whatever layer of black you're putting down when you're doing, like you're filling in space with black on any kind of character or anything, make sure it's even. Done with the black, I'm gonna go ahead and cure that. I also, when I'm working in bigger spots of black, not outlines, but when I'm filling in big black areas, I do cure like each space at a time. I don't even chance, something weird and freakish happening with it, and then I leave it, and then I do another area, and then I cure it, and then like 5 minutes goes by, and then there's a bubble, so I don't even chance it. So go ahead and cure that before you move on. And I had some of the green left. So you always want to make enough, like I said. So if you need to shade, you can either add black or white, depending on the color you need, or the tone, whatever. I had some of the green left, and I added just a little bit of black to it, so I can get a little bit of the darker color to do the shading around his eyes, and the little bags under his eyes and under his nose, and like the little swoop by his lip. Go ahead and cure that before we move on to shading in the teeth. And for that, I just took a little like pinch of black and added it to the white. And we're just going to shade in, a little area between each tooth, so you can, if they're separated that way. And I made a little boo-boo that I can see, so I just took some alcohol and this 3D brush, which I use as a cleanup brush, and I'm kind of fixing the tooth there. It might not be something that you notice, or your clients might notice rather, but me personally, if I make a mistake, I have to fix it. So so after curing that, we're gonna move on to the mouth. Well, his tongue. We shaded in the mouth already. And I just took a red. It's another color I feel like you gotta be careful with sometime, but I honestly haven't had any trouble, but it's just, depends on what you're using, I suppose. To each his own. Red's a color I know some people might have difficulty with, so it could be whether or not you're using, an LED or a UV lamp, that's the thing. But yes, we're just going to do the tongue really quick. We're not going to add all the detail because it'll blend right together, so that you'll do step by step and cure. And now that the black is cured, I'm just going to go back in because I noticed that I made the little side of his mouth a little thinner than I was supposed to. But again, like I'm going to keep saying, because I love it, It's full coverage, so I can actually go back over this black with this green and you won't be able to tell. Ignore my nails. Jesus Christ. It's sad. It's so sad. Don't judge me, just love me, okay? That's it. I don't ask for much. Just saying. So I didn't cure, but you can if you need to. But I'm just gonna take a little bit of the skin tone green and add it. There's a thin line under the darker line in that little bag under his eyeball. I am out of frame because I am absolutely trash. Okay, Lonna, there we go, girl. Get it together. All right. So I'm just adding in that other lighter color that's in that little pus ball that, or I'm assuming was a pus ball, whatever, little spot that's on Bart's head. And I just took the same color that I used initially and I just added some white to it to make it lighter and put that little dot there. And then I'm gonna take the same red that I used for the tongue and use it for the eyeballs. And after that, I'm gonna fill in the gums. And for that, I'm gonna take the pink that I initially used for the gum and the brain area, the little brain piece that was sticking out, a little bit of red and some black to get it kind of darker, and add the shading in, and that was for his gums area. So that's what we're gonna do right after these eyeballs are finished. Eyeballs are a little tricky, so I always get like a little dollop of color at the tip, and you know, it forms like a little ball, and that's my little pop, just pop that down there. I feel like I sound like Bob Ross trying to describe things. I need to get together. Ignore me, but it's late as I'm doing this, so don't judge me too much. I get extra goofy during that time, so bear with me. But yes, let's get these gums together. I'm also going to darken around the little brain piece that's sticking out. It's just adding depth there for, you know, again, no outlining yet, but that's what that's for. So I added that so you can see that a little bit. And next we're going to do the little bumps. You can hardly see them. Oh my God, look at my thumb. Anyway, you can hardly see the little prickly bumps that are on Bart's skin, but adding those little minor details is very important. So we're gonna do that. And there's barely any green on my brush, but I'm taking literally the very thin tip and adding that in there. For the tongue, I took some red and a little bit of this mustard color, the 81 that I was using for that second layer you see of detail on his tongue before I cured. Mind you, this is the first time I'm curing. It's been a while. I haven't cured in a while. Again, cure whenever you're comfortable. If you need to do it between every little subsection, go ahead. This is just personally the way that I do it. But that's where I am as far as my comfortability goes. But if you're not comfortable yet or between certain steps, do what you need to do. I also didn't feel like the gum was as dark as it should have been. So I went back and darkened that a little bit. Again, the full coverage helps so much, especially if you make little mistakes. So yes. Moving on. I cut it out accidentally, but I took some of that same orange and red mixture and added some white for that last little bit of detail on the tongue. And now I am taking a dark green that I made using the green and, let's see, I think it was a little bit of black that I added to get it as dark as I wanted it to be for the slime that you can barely see that's in his mouth. You can barely see it, but it's still an important detail. So that's what I did for that. One more time, probably not the last time, but I'm gonna say it one more time, because as I'm watching this happen, it makes me very happy. It makes my heart smile that like I can put this green over this black and I don't have to worry about it melting in there. So yes, so add that detail and then we're gonna move on. Once I made that green, I decided to make the bags under his eyes a little bit darker. So I took that same green that I used for like the slime you can see in his mouth and added that in the little bags under his eyes. Now this is something I decided to do last minute. I was like, okay, well you can see there's enough room on this nail for this hand, so we're gonna do this hand really quickly, just a little portion of it. So I just outlined the hand with black, the same way I did everything before, and I cured that. And then right after I just went in with the green. Like I said, I made plenty of it and just filled in the hand with the green. So go ahead and do that if you'd like to. If you'd like to add the hand, to add to the photo. And then we're gonna move on again. So the slime or saliva or whatever it is in his mouth is like slightly highlighted in some areas with like a neon color. So I just took the neon yellow that I had with the green that I used to make the darker green, and that's what I used to get the highlighter color that I'm using right now for that little minor detail. So once you cure that, we're going to move on to outlining. Finally, we're done with all the extra details, so let's move on to that. So always make sure my brush is covered in black. And when you're outlining, you want to make sure you're as consistent as possible with your lines. So when you're outlining, you can either make the outline of the entire character thicker or, the same consistency as far as, or the same thickness rather, of the outline as you see in the picture. But whatever it is, you want the same consistency of the lines all the way through. So I started tracing. I just started from the little eyebrow bone and worked my way all the way around throughout the hair. Kept going. If you ever need to go back and, thicken up a line, you can do that, but this part is very important. It's important that you take your time. You don't want to rush through it, especially because you've come this far and you did such an amazing job and you're happy with it and proud of yourself. You don't want to mess up at this part of the character, especially if I'm not doing it on a client, but like myself, or just a tip like I'm doing right now, or a press on rather. I get antsy, so I have to remind myself to breathe through it and take my time. Otherwise, I feel like it'll just turn out like blah, or I'll have to stop too many times and go back and correct something. So it's very important that you take your time when you're doing this last step. because this is what's going to bring everything together. So remember, consistency with your thickness of your outline for the parts of the character on the inside as well as the ones on the outside. So eyeballs, same consistency, hair, mouth, around the teeth, all that needs to be the same. And with this too, if you mess up on any time, feel free to take a cleanup brush and some alcohol and correct it. That's what I'm doing right now. But something else you'll see me do too is throughout this process, I will also cure bits and pieces. So sometimes I'll do like the eyeballs, draw around the eyebrows, outline the eyeballs, outline the eyeballs, and then cure. Do the teeth, then cure. Again, don't be afraid to cure. Do it as much as you need to. Okay, whatever you're comfortable with. So you don't accidentally like move your arm and like you can wipe something off. Yeah, so do it as often as you need to. It's black, so yeah, do the full cure, but yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. And this is the last step, so I'm so excited. So for the little pus driplet thingy, whatever we're calling that, on his forehead, my line was a little bit thinner to kind of match, you know, the thickness that was in the picture. It wasn't as thick as everything else, like the outline of his hair and everything else, which is fine. It'll be kind of hard to do, especially if you are a beginner, so just take your time. Just make sure your brush doesn't have as much paint on the tip, and you want to kind of use the fine, like the really fine tip of your art brush to do that. I'll also put the brush that I use in the description, so you guys will have that as well if anybody needs it. Oh my god, y'all, and that is pretty much a freaking wrap. Okay, I top coated this with matte because I don't know, for some reason with a lot of character art I feel like it looks better matte, so that's what I did. Okay, and yeah, we're done. So this is how my zombie Bart turned out. I was extremely proud and excited for it. I've been waiting to draw this guy for like at least a solid 2 years, and I just never got around to it, so I was very happy with the outcome, and I hope you guys are too. If you guys have any questions, go ahead, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? And if you want me to do more of these videos, just let me know and I will. Feel free to leave me suggestions, and yeah, thanks for watching.